Good morning. Today I wanted to show you what an average day looks like for me and how I spontaneously came upon making pig heart. My day usually begins with a visit from little Miss Julia Child to continue her investigation on how the sink works. With my eyes still full of sand, I make the terrible decision to whip out my phone, first thing I usually never do. However, my butcher messaged me who's come through with pig heart and kidneys, so today we're going to make pig heart. The method I go about tackling these recipes once I have one in mind. It starts very simply. Oh my gosh, my hands are getting jacked up. I do find it a little neat, much how Bourdain describes his little callus he develops under his forefinger. We're kind of starting to wear our passion in a way. Granted, I'm saying that when I still have 5 fingers, but it's still kind of interesting. Back to the recipe. I have an app called AnyList. Simply input from here the name of the recipe, which 9 times out of 10 I cannot pronounce, and then go about adding the ingredients. I'll include a link of this app in the description of the video. If you're interested, I use the free version and I find this pretty useful. After inputting everything, I mean everything, I will then add it to my list and take a sip of my tea, which I don't even like. I just used it as an excuse for a little cute please subscribe. From here I take my list and I see what I already have in my kitchen. This reduces waste, and upon further thought, I should probably just get a tub of butter at Costco. The freezer's developing a little identity of its own with some unique ingredients. We have some bouquet garni, which I don't know if it's a good idea to freeze, some demi-glace, turkey bones. It's kind of cool. Looking around, I figure we could get a head start on some garlic confit, which the recipe calls for. A lovely flavor-enhancing ingredient. You add some oil to the chopped off heads of garlic with salt and pepper. You can add maybe a little thyme if you want. Wrap them up with aluminum foil, and I throw them in the oven at 300 degrees for about an hour and a half. With our garlic mellowing out, it is time for my morning walk, which I take every freaking day. Rain or shine, it's about an hour long. It is very important for me, I think, for my mental and physical health. I used to exercise pretty intensely, but with some health issues up in the air, I gotta do something, and for me that's getting some fresh air and just walking while I actually study some Italian. I have no doubt in my mind the locals know of me as that guy in the red jacket with a man bun who talks to his phone every morning. And to top off today, I'm walking around with a tripod filming myself. Midway through my walk, I always hit the woods, which I just find serene. Throughout time, many great speakers and philosophers have had a great reverence for nature, and while I'm neither of those things, I still appreciate it very much. Coming to the end here, I catch up with my mailman who is the homie. Paul, he is a great dude. He's like the sage of the town. Back home, you've probably seen them by now. This is Jacques and that's Julia. Of course, it's time to get ready to go pick up these ingredients. The garlic is done. It is transformed miraculously into this creamy, sweeter garlic that has way less of a bite that you would have with raw. I give a taste, giving myself heartburn and terrible breath, but it was delicious. We wrap this up and it's time to head out. Welcome to Bringhurst, which I am discovering is like a church for some of the locals here. This is where I actually buy most of the protein for my recipes. Here is the man himself, Keegan, the man who hooked me up. Super grateful to find him and this place. Definitely recommend checking it out. With the precious cargo in tow and a nice gust of wind reminding me to fully extend my tripod, it's off to go buy the other ingredients. It's simple. The heart is going to be the star here. Very few ingredients are actually called for, but we're going to get a little cognac, some herbs, avoid buying cheese, which is my weakness, and fight the impulse to accidentally swipe 2 things at the self-check register. By the way, when did Paula Deen stop using butter? She is like a fifth of what the heck I remember her as. Still probably racist, but what the hell. Finally back home, let's set up shop, getting everything in order, all our ducks in a row, so to speak. Every equipment item we need, every ingredient we need, I all have ready to go. I know you want to see this pig heart first, but we got to prep that garlic confit mixture. Taking the leaves of 1 to 2 sprigs of parsley and a sprig or 2 of thyme, we're just going to chop this up, not too finely, but definitely not very coarse. With a little improv here, which may bite me in the butt later, I take our herbs, mix them up with 1 clove of garlic confit and a little splash of olive oil and a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. Mixing this up with my hand, I'm not sure why. I figured this will be a nice little mixture we can kind of slather on the pig heart. So let's reveal this thing. Definitely one of the more intimidating moments for me in my kitchen. I gotta say, I think this thing was cleaned up pretty nicely. It looks impeccable to me. They even sliced it down the middle and maybe removed some gunk. I'm not positive. But after a minute of pretending to be that guy from Indiana Jones that rips a dude's heart out, I decided to put one of these in the freezer. I'm not going to cook up 2 freaking pig hearts. That's just too much meat in general. I can't help but think if someone were to come to my house raised on the classic diet of chicken nuggets and mashed potatoes, they would probably think I'm Hannibal Lecter. Checking this thing out, it is funny. My butcher mentioned I'm diving into the deep end with valves, and boy, we got some tubes here. I figure we get rid of this big one that if you have some medical background, you probably could name. After some probing and prodding and violating to a degree. I didn't find much else that we could remove off this thing. We now season pretty liberally with salt, a trick I've been picking up, keeping one hand clean and one hand as the quote dirty hand. Taking our herb mixture, we spread this on the heart, and Bourdain mentions particularly to get this inside the arteries. From here, a little fresh cracked black pepper, and let this hang out to come up to temperature. I'm actually messing around with a whole other recipe at the time of recording, a roulade of pheasant, which came out much better than I thought it would. But that's a video for another time. We're going to saute one medium onion sliced up in what should be a tablespoon of pork fat. I just have oil going here. I give it a touch of salt and actually a little sugar just to speed up the caramelization process. And in about 10 minutes, we have some nicely browned onions. Set those off to the side, and taking a moment to appreciate what the heck I'm about to do here, let's sear up this heart. Here, Bourdain is a little fuzzy on the directions. He doesn't have us actually sear this thing. He just has us throw it in the oven. So I figure we try to develop some kind of crust, applying pressure over pretty ripping hot heat, and after 2 to 3 minutes, we have some color. From here, I toss it in the oven at 375 for about 7 to 8 minutes. We tent with aluminum foil, a cool little trick I learned to keep things nice and warm. Back over to our skillet, I figure we utilize this oil that our heart was cooking in, adding about a tablespoon of Wondra flour and cooking it down for a minute or two. Next, adding what should be 2 tablespoons of Armagnac. This is actually cognac, cooking this down until nearly dry. Follow up with half a cup of chicken stock, bringing this up to a boil while stirring and then reducing over a simmer. With a real nice consistency to our sauce, we add 8 cloves of confit garlic along with 2 tablespoons of French magic. Once nicely incorporated, we're going to finish with those caramelized onions. Now, how to carve this hard-working muscle. Bourdain says just slice it thin. A phrase I've been kind of working on is slice it thin to win. Slice it thin for the win. Whatever you will, if it's kind of funky, slice it thin. It's relatively tender cutting this up, and I think we have a real nice cook to it as well. For plating, let's just go with a simple presentation here. Our sauce in the middle of our plate, followed by the heart right on top. Sprinkle with some fleur de sel, and I think we could trick a few people. The moment of truth, getting a pretty nice bite here. I don't want to smother it in sauce. I want there no mistaking this is a freaking heart I'm eating. The flavor is really nice, maybe a little metallic, lent by the freaking blood this thing has to pump, but the texture is a little hard to get through for me. Giving this a taste, followed by a few more tastes, I would say we have a winner. We didn't follow the recipe to a T, but we're at the point where we can start tweaking recipes with a little confidence. If you'd like to check out more recipes I'm doing, I have one here to your right. Thank you for spending your time with me. This was Back to Bourdain.
Stay organized, you clean up after you sell, you do the best you can.